beast like that.
I know, but I'm just like such a like cynical bitch that I can't take anything seriously. It's like, what? What do you want me to say? No, I don't know what this is.
I also think we're being recorded. Okay.
Exactly.
I think that if you're a bad kid, it provides a lot of structure and discipline because you need to stand in a grid formation and like you do Chorya!
Let's go this way.
And then it's like it's very like
Yeah, I like
because like martial arts started as like I'm pretty sure Tae Kwon Do has its roots in the warriors of Korea.
Yeah.
And so of course it's like, you know, naturally like it's military life.
Yeah.
So I mean, it definitely formed me, but I think it's best for the kids that. I think it's actually best for kids that are naturally aggressive and need to be honed in.
No, you're right.
Because in my case, I was more weak and timid, and it somewhat brought me out of my shell in that way.
Were you the kid in the classic like Nickelodeon sitcom who like was like wimpy and the bullies would come up to him and then he would go to Tae Kwon Do and then you would go up to the sensei and be like, when do I learn how to beat up bullies? And then they would sit you down and be like, Tae Kwon Do is not about beating up bullies. It's about self-defense and discipline. And then the bully comes up to you and then you like look him in the eyes and show him you're not scared, and then he respects you, and then you don't have to beat him up. That's every episode.
I wish I had cinematic main character moments in my childhood, but I really didn't. It was much lamer than that. I was just kind of like excluded. I wish that I had those moments where like they walk up to me and slam down my books and stuff like that. But it just
put your head in a toilet.
Yeah, because like in my parents' generation, that's what happened. Like people, like the seniors in high school, for no reason would just like, you know, push the freshmen into lockers and all that stuff. But no, it was, in my case, it was much more covert, much more like subtle, which is lame, because then how are you supposed to complain or like lash out against that?
I know, yeah, it's repressed like bullying. It's not. Is that a drug deal going on? Who knows in these streets? Bullies in middle school were like, what did they do?
I mean, in my case, like, they would make us... Well, okay, so I had a group of... No, I mean, it's just like I had a group of quote-unquote friends, and they would, like, go tell me to... They would be like, oh, go do this in front of, like, a group of girls, or, like...
Oh, that's fun.
And they would, like, you know, make me embarrass myself. So none of it was, like, nothing that dramatic.
Funny.
Or, like, there was, like, a lunch table, and it was, like... In order to be with the cool kids, there was like, okay, like each table had 6 chairs. There'd be 5 cool kids, and like the one chair is for like a rotating nerd, and so you have to like run. You have to like run to make it to lunch in time so that you can be at the nerd chair. And then if you're not, you need to sit with like the total losers and people with like disorders and stuff at the other end of the cafeteria. We can cut that out if you want.
We all have some disorder, don't we? My favorite bullying moment. Was I was in the locker room in middle school, and there was a volleyball net pole in there, and one kid was like, this is what Steven needs to be in the boys' locker room, indicating I needed like a phallic prosthesis because I wasn't a real boy. Okay. Meanwhile, we're passing a Byzantine church, very cool, right here.
Gorgeous.
This is St. George Greek Catholic Church. It's some Russian Slavic stuff. Okay. The fun fact is the priest here is actually this old Guido, like super old school. Let's cross this way. All right. This priest, I called one Sunday to see if they're having mass. And he's like, yeah, come at 9 o'clock. So I come, he's all Guidoed out, doing the divine liturgy. We're going to go into this little prayer garden.
A Greek Guido or an Italian?
No, Italian Guido. I don't know why he's doing Byzantine liturgy. And then at the end, I'm walking out, and he's like, yo, you. I was like, me? He's like, yeah, you're the one who called this morning. It's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, come with me. I'm going to show you around. And then he introduced me to everyone, and they had like a little coffee hour.
That's awesome.
So
she's falling apart.
She's falling apart. This is what's interesting. So I'm going to narrate. I'm here with AJ Fezza of Cracks and PoMo. He's published with us a few times. Has some hot takes on ethnicity, suburbs, stuff we always talk about. And we're in the old neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey, currently in the Eastward Ironbound section, walking around. We're passing all these churches, all these little restaurants, third places. And we're currently in front of there's a Mary shrine outside. And like, what's interesting is if you look at all the last names of this Byzantine parish, it's very mixed. So you have like some Slavic names. There might be some Italian somewhere. I don't know. Stazo maybe. Some of them are like Croatian or Slovaks or something. Yeah, it's very interesting. And then if you turn around here, there's like a Jesus with like what are the muscles on the side called? Lat dorsal? What is that?
Abs, but humans
The side abs. So like he not only has a six pack, but like has a bunch of little abs around it. But do you see the strangest thing about this statue, this crucifix?
What about it?
Why is there only one nail in his one foot?
It looked like there was the other one.
I know. I want to take a picture for our viewers to see this weird ripped Jesus with one nail. So, anyways.
I thought the feet were supposed to be stacked one on top of the other.
Yeah, that's
with
the
one
other
nail
thing.
through the both.
Because it's more painful if you like prop him up. You know, those Romans, our ancestors, love to torture people.
Yeah.
So anyway, we should ask AJ, why is he so into like, because like I thought I was the only person who cared about this like anti-suburbs assimilation thing. But then you were like, oh, I like totally get that. And then you wrote about these things for us.
Right.
So yeah, like I think first you need to tell people your background. Like if people read your crossing, what was it called? Crossing the Verrazano?
I think it was When Italians Became White, the Exodus Across the Verrazano.
So yeah, you should read his story on the Substack. But like, yeah, tell people a little bit about your background and then why like you're into this whole like the culture and the suburbs and all that.
Right, so I was raised by pretty Italian parents in like the stereotypical New York sense. They were both from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, which was and somewhat still is a strong Italian community there. And they actually met at their university Italian club at St. John's.
Oh,
and then eventually had me. I was born in New York but raised in New Jersey, and yeah, I was I wouldn't call my development McMansions, because I don't know if it exactly meets those criteria, but it's, you know, something along those lines. It's like a sprawling upper middle class suburban development, and there were no children, there were no other kids on my block or anything like that. So I would say basically for the first at least 15 years of my life, I had maybe 0 moments of spontaneous social interaction. I had to be driven to absolutely anywhere that I ever wanted to go. And I mean, the things that I did do weren't even done for like my enjoyment or whatever. It was for like my personal development, whatever. Like I was part of a travel soccer league. Everything was micromanaged by like, you know, soccer moms and like overly invested adults and all that kind of thing. I basically I guess I crashed a little bit in my adolescence. I knew something was off. I didn't like the way I was living. And then I came to a lot of realizations. But the suburb-related one, the fact that, like, my built environment actually, you know, shaped and, like, limited my, you know, childhood and adolescence. Like, that I came to, I think, probably through YouTube. I think I came across the channel... Not Just Bikes. Love that guy.
The Strode video.
Yes, and yeah, so my town, it's called Manalapan. It's in central Jersey, a real region. That's another topic of conversation I can vouch for. But yeah, I grew up near a major Strode, Route 9. It's disgusting. That was the Strode that Manalapanners take to go up to New York, filled with Best Buys, and actually they had a Blockbuster up until COVID. So they had one of the, you know, last blockbusters, I think.
I'm going to pause for a second to narrate. We're passing by Latina's Beauty Salon, if you couldn't tell by the music. We're also passing St. Casimir's Polish Catholic Church. The Polish used to live on this block. Then they white flighted. The church still exists because it's a National Historic Site. Gorgeous inside. But yeah, so now we're heading back towards the little Italian block of the Ironbound. But anyway, AJ was saying.
Let me think, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I think just the algorithm, it's pretty smart. It figured me out. It, picked up on some of my dissatisfactions. And basically I had a subconscious realization. I couldn't yet put it into terms because I didn't yet join any of the online urbanism communities. So I didn't have the language. But I knew that where I lived was, despite the fact that people all over the world would probably die to live there, and get that conventional American suburban upbringing. But I thought it was ugly. I thought it was artificial. I was yearning for something more, I suppose.
Yeah, say something about the cars though. Like, what is it about? Because you told me like you want to vow to only live in walkable cities.
Yeah.
What is it that repels you so much about drivable cities?
Ideally, you should be able to walk or drive. You should have the option open to you. But I would say where I was, there was nowhere to walk. So it was like, it was simply like I didn't even leave my cul-de-sac because we were jutted against a decently busy road, and you're a kid, you could get trampled. If we're being honest with ourselves, I probably could have gone out there and it probably would have turned out fine. I think there's some anxiety at play there. But no, my development was jutted up against a busy road. It wasn't an option. You were kind of a prisoner of that development. And I remember feeling like, I act like I'm anti-car now, but one of the most freeing and amazing moments of my life was my senior year of high school when I got a car. And it changed everything. It was freedom. Actually, my dad, he says that there was a commercial growing up where the guy would say, "You start to live when you learn to drive." And I think that was true for me, and that really resonates. Like, I started living a real life when I learned to drive. However, I don't think it should be that way.
So this is the thing. Like, it's the suburban kid's dream to get their car, because that means freedom. But it's like such a false promise of freedom, because now I can drive everywhere and then do nothing interesting and be miserable and hang out with my little dweeby friends and go to Dunkin'. Or, as I did, to Panera.
Or the places that I found worth driving to were walkable communities. I would drive to this town, Freehold.
Mall.
Okay, I drive to...
Mall culture is another Jersey suburb thing that's a whole other thing. I'm taking a picture so people can see where we are. I want to see... I should have paused it. I have to cut it out. Okay. Look, the birds are having fun. I want to get a picture of the volleyball game. I'll have to cut this out. But this is...
a lot of spectators.
Yeah. No, it's going to get even more crowded as time goes on, though.
Is this informal or is this like leads?
This is informal. It's all spontaneous. So, anywho... Hold up. I just wanted to note real quick before we go back to the cars. So now we're walking in Independence Park, and so it's kind of juxtaposing with what AJ was saying about the lack of spontaneity in the suburbs. This is pure spontaneity. Like, there's this little volleyball court with all these Ecuadorians just crowding around, trying to get into the game, watching the game, having their snacks, all that good stuff. Kids playing soccer. This is sure you got, and then you got the little food trucks and all these things, and sure you have stuff going on outside in the suburbs, but it's very planned. It's all very fabricated and it's the lack of spontaneity.
When I was a kid, it was always to see the other kids outside of school. You had to set up a play date, and your mom had to coordinate with their mom and to shuttle each other over to each other's houses. There were no other kids on my street. That was the only option.
It takes away your agency as a kid to have to take risks and learn from experience. Anywho, so the car stuff. You got your car. You're free. Or so you.
Yeah. Thought. Well, I will say within the first 3 months of having my car, I got into 2 accidents.
I got in an accident the first month.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault, though. But
Yeah.
I cried like a little baby, and my daddy had to come see me.
It was pretty bad. I mean, my first crash, both of them were with old women. I think there should be an age limit to driver's licenses.
You age is sexist.
I know, but we need to think about public safety. But anyways, yeah, the first crash, not too bad. Right outside my high school, so it's embarrassing. Everyone saw, but whatever. Second crash, I totaled my car, so I was carless again. And, yeah, I was back to being dependent on others.
You totaled.
But then my dad got a new car and gave me his old one. Everything works out. Everything works out when your dad gets a new car. So it was fine.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, where would I drive? I would drive to Freehold, which, yes, it had the mall, but it also had the old walkable, town center.
Okay.
And I would drive to, I mean, the big one was the Jersey Shore and all the old shore towns.
What are your shore towns?
Okay, there's a bunch. I claim all the Monmouth County shore towns. So I'm talking Long Branch, Asbury Park, Belmar,
Good.
Manasquan, Ocean Grove. Primarily Belmar. My friend had a beach house there.
That's where some of my family's in Belmar.
Love the Jersey Shore. When I say I'm proud of Central Jersey, I'm talking not even about my hometown. I'm talking about the shore. Love the shore.
I love how, like, the further south you get, like, the more depraving it is of, like, the Guidos of,
Oh, it gets so tacky.
like Lavallette going into Tom's River, you get, like, all the deplorables. I'm not gonna get more specific, but it's also, like, beachier, so, like, people are just walking around in their flip-flops and they're, like, the women in their sundresses. And, like, it's just so Jersey trash.
But it's interesting going to the shore towns in the winter and seeing them totally desolate and just gray and depressing, and it has sort of a character during that season.
My favorite thing in life is to go to the shore in the off season, because for me it's a mystical experience, because, like, nobody's there, you're in front of the ocean, and it's just like nature. And no one's there, like, I don't know. I love.
Oh,
that's
yeah, and
one
half
of
of
my
the businesses are closed,
I
and
love that.
you're just with the locals. It's something else, yeah.
I've seen some nasty things though in the shore town. Whenever
what
I
kind
bring
of
BIPOC friends to Lavallette, there's always an incident.
Okay.
Where, like, because we have a speaker system outside the house, and if we play, like, I can't say what I wanted to say. If you play music that's not very respectable, they'll give you looks and might call the police.
Well, Lavallette's really bougie.
It's bougie, yeah, but, like, racist bougie. It's like all the old police officers.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're passing. Oh, this is a cute food truck which we're gonna take a picture of. El Buen Chef. It's like has little seats outside. It's cute. We're here for it. This is very adorbs. We love it. Yeah, all this.
If you're from North Jersey, you're a Benny, then.
I'm a Benny, but my family has houses down there, so.
All right, you have an excuse. Okay.
And I know everything about the shore. I don't go down there wearing socks with my sandals. I'm not a shoebie.
Okay. Okay, there are tiers to Bennydom. Some people would even say that I'm a Benny.
Yeah, because you didn't live on the shore.
Yeah, I was good 25, 30 minutes away. Yeah, I could see that.
Another thing I'm going to point out, a pizzeria in this, what once was an Italian hood, which I think my family first immigrated to, now run by Ecuadorians. So you got an American, Italian, Ecuadorian flag out front. Interesting. But on that note, let's talk about, so, like, you were very, very conscious of the effects of assimilation. I think we have a kind of similar experience. So, like, tell us about your family's experience of assimilation. Like, how did you become woke in this regard? Like, how did you realize that this is not really such a great thing?
Sure. So on my mother's side of the family came from the Naples area to, Bensonhurst in the 1960s.
Pause. Sorry. Anyway, so AJ was saying about his family.
Yes, so my mom's side came to the U.S. in the 1960s, which is pretty late in the grand scheme of Italian immigration to the U.S. And my dad's side came, I believe, in the 1920s. So it was like my grandparents on my mom's side, were like, shoddy English speakers. I mean, they died before I knew them, but like, yeah, so we were on the more Italian end of the spectrum, I guess you could say, because of how recent we were. And yeah, I mean, what was the question? I don't remember.
How you guys assimilated and how you got woke.
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, and my parents were...
Project a little since the cars were...
Yeah, so my parents were, totally part of the greater Bensonhurst area Italian Brooklyn culture. Strong accents. They still have strong accents, though I think after 20 or so years in Jersey, it's starting to fade a little bit, but I don't know, it could be I'm just acclimated. But yeah, so they were, pretty big into their culture. There were, festivals and whatnot, and my mom was active in her parish, and as I said, they met at the Italian club when they went to school at St. John's. But they as the years passed, and they kind of settled into life in central Jersey, in the spread out suburbs. It's a very Italian suburb. Like, my town was probably at least 50% Italian. Like, it was that stark. Like, if you look at the class lists, all the names are like D'Amato, De Benedetto, Di Vincenzo, like all that kind of stuff. But, there were no festivals or anything of that sort. There was just no capacity for it. And it's not even like we returned to, the old cities, like, because Bensonhurst was like an hour and a half away. Like, it was a pretty far distance. So, yeah, there was no festivals recognizing our heritage or whatnot. It was kind of just like understood as like something in the past, not something that's our heritage, not something that's like actively fostered to this day. And I think people found it to be... I think people, like my peers, like I think we all kind of missed that. Like, I think we felt like we were missing out on something because people would kind of identify with it when people, would start up their Instagram accounts at ridiculously young ages, which was a mistake, but it happened. Yeah. People would always put, Italian and the Italian flag in their bio. Okay. And, would kind of... I think that they would affect a certain accent that they would turn on and off. I never did. I was too nerdy to ever pull off that, New York, Jersey kind of thing. Yeah. But, there were... I was a kid in, the late 2000s, early 2010s. Jersey Shore was popular at the time.
Oh, my God. Bully D. Snooki wasn't even Italian, by the way. Yeah, she's from Chile. Exactly. It's okay. She was adopted by Italians.
Latinx.
She's Latinx. No, but that's the thing. Like, I've known people adopted by Italians, and they're super Italian. Yeah. So we don't question. But yeah, Jersey Shore was a moment for us because, I'm just going to say Cory Booker for mayor, screw that guy. Because I have a similar experience to you. There are a handful of assimilated Italian kids in my suburban New Jersey public school, and no one claimed it. But it's also because, there was no point of reference for us. If you were Latinx, there are points of reference that, identify you. And, people are oh, that's part of your culture. For us, we didn't have that. And then Jersey Shore comes out. And I'm oh, this is my people. Because, okay, it's not really... Actually, I do know people who are kind of like that. But, no, but the fact that, they go to the shore, they go to Seaside, they talk like this... Parties here, all of that. I do have family who's tangentially related to that part of Italian culture. And then, the other shows, The Sopranos, The Real Housewives, Cake Boss.
Sopranos, best show of all time.
Camille Paglia doesn't agree with you.
I know, but this is one of the few cases in which she's wrong.
There are many. I have a whole list of things. I think the pedophilia thing was pretty bad.
Probably.
The porn stuff, I get what she's saying. I
think that at the time that she was, had her most successful era, in the 90s, I don't think she could have predicted how bad and how, how spread out to the masses porn would be.
Yeah, the stripper and the prostitute thing. I think she's right in principle, but because she's, a libertarian pagan, I don't think she understands, there is original sin, and that when you do things that are not good for your soul, it actually affects you negatively, and you can't just decide to not be affected. But anyway, The Sopranos, all these shows, no, like it did become a way to kind of claim our culture publicly. But like tell us how you got woke and how like you understood it. Like I do have a culture and it's not good to be uprooted from that culture.
Right. Well, I think I came to reject Italian American culture, or at the very least I came to reject like the most artificial instances of it, which is like my peers kind of play acting, putting on that Jersey Shore voice, that whole thing. I thought that was ridiculous, and I didn't like that. And I specifically wanted to avoid the people in my town for many reasons, probably including that. And I went to like a small science magnet school, very diverse, but I mean a lot of Asians. And I kind of like, went away from my town for a bit. And so I kind of just put that era behind me. Let me think. How did I discover? I would say it's hard to pinpoint it. How did I become woke with regard to my heritage? I think it was probably I think it was hand in hand with my acquired disdain for the suburbs. There were a few moments in which my family went to Brooklyn, and I just kind of, and we saw their old stomping grounds, the places where they would go to eat, where they went to school, the whole thing, and I'd see their faces just like totally light up. And it's their physical reaction to this just did not match their words. Something wasn't matching, because when they talk about it, sometimes they insist like, oh, we had no space, it was terrible, the people were jerks, we had to go, it was a nightmare. And then of course when you go to this place that you malign, you just like you're walking on air and it's incredible. I don't know, could it just be that as years pass you acquire nostalgia for anything? I don't think it's that. I think it's more than that.
What's interesting, though, is what you're saying about Bensonhurst. Very different situation from the Newark Italians who left because of racial tension, because the Italians were racist, and the violence. I mean, the violence was, it was hard to live with. But yeah, so the Bensonhurst narrative is like, I mean, really? What did you really want to get away from? It didn't really add up. The other thing I was saying to AJ before, it's like, so when I moved into this neighborhood, like my little suburban snowflake came out really bad. And, I realized like, okay, I had this romantic view of the ethnic barrio, and it was like awesome. I loved it. But like, there are things you got to deal with that you're not used to in the suburbs. Like you gotta learn how to deal with people, and I don't know how to do that. You have to learn how to deal with conflict. But then I know people who lived here, came from immigrant families, and I saw like they're basically two kind of like, once you start to make it, once you start to have like a little bit more money, I was seeing like two trends. Like I see people who are like, want to get out of here so we can live a nice quiet life in the burbs. And part of it is because like one person I know, like a violent thing happened to them, so I totally get that. But then like they move to the burbs and they're like, okay, I'm bored. And I'm like, yeah, not only that, when you have kids, they're all gonna be like, have identity issues and like personality disorders and shit. So is it really all worth it? And I realized like for them, the ideal life is one of comfort, material prosperity. Whereas the other families who make it like recognize that in this environment, like there's more space to like live your culture, live community, live faith, like, and that for them is much more satisfying than their nice, comfortable life with money and shit.
I mean, because I don't even consider, I have a harsh stance on the suburbs, but I don't even consider it really living. I think it's just like existing, because it's like, it's designed to, it fosters anxiety because they're physically designed to minimize interactions with other people. So when you do enter the quote-unquote real world and start having constant interactions with other people, you're unequipped, because that's not something that you did casually at street corners and in public places since you were 8 years old. And I mean, just the isolation and the emptiness of it, I think it feels worse. Like sometimes it's freeing to feel angry or sad or whatever, because you're feeling something. Because you're feeling something. Like it makes, like, anger is kind of like, it makes you feel alive. It can be, you know, conversation material to come to your friends with. Like it's something happened to you.
Dead bird? No, I
that's
thought
a
that was
bra.
that's a dead bra, not a dead. See, the things you wouldn't find that in the suburbs.
No.
Yeah,
In Chicago they have that rat hole. Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
There's a rat that was I think paved over, and so there's like when they remove the rat, there's like a hole and it's hardened, and people go there and they drop coins and stuff. That's awesome.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, so the lack of having to deal with conflict, but this is why, like, you see a lot of suburban kids, no judgment zone, but like a lot of us have these identity issues that kids living in urban environments, especially ethnic enclaves, less prone to, and it's because they have a very clear identity, first on a cultural level, but also character-wise. And I think when you have this vacuum that, like, sucks out culture, again, like, organic, not like, you know, manufactured artificial culture, like, yeah, then you start to, like, what is my identity? And you have to create all these new identities. But also, like, mental health. Like, how many kids in the suburbs are on antidepressants? Like, not to say depression's not real, but it definitely exacerbates. Like, it's a depressing life. So, I don't know. So then what is, let's be, like, a little more pragmatic here. Like, what is your proposal? Like, what do you think people need to, those are Spaniards, by the way. Those are colonizers. Now, there actually is a big Spain population here. Yeah, so, like, what do you think people, like, what would be a hopeful future looking forward? Like, what should the goals, the ideals be in terms of, like, the culture, urban planning, and all this kind of stuff?
Okay. It's hard to say, because I think there was a time where I thought, like, by default, a walkable community means, like, you know, life is all of a sudden going to be exciting, and there will be, like, everyone's going to be socializing and all that. Like, I moved to a walkable town, and just to discover, like, I still actually need to do the work on myself as a human being to actually talk to these people that I pass on the street. And also, I had no connections there. So, like, I wouldn't say that it's as simple as an urban planning thing. Though I think it's a prerequisite. I think if you're going to have a community, I think the baseline is that it's to some degree walkable. There's some degree of mixed use, like the products that you buy are like the businesses are actually interspersed with the residences, so that you actually have a connection with the products that you consume every day, instead of being, like, on just, like, some conveyor belt like cattle.
Sorry, brief note. I almost moved into the attic of this house. The only way in was through the fire escape. They wouldn't let me use the main door. And I was like, what about if it snows? And they're like, oh, you'll be fine. But our last tenant slipped on the snow, but she acknowledged it was her fault. So that was a no. That's really loud. Hot take. How do you feel about scooters?
So it depends. I think scooters in downtowns of cities can be cool, but, like, at my college, all the athletes got scooters, and they were just reckless, just going everywhere, and the school had to ban it. This is, like, a thing at college campuses all over the place.
Really?
Yeah, the scooters are a big problem. They're banning, all these universities are banning them left and right. I can't lie, it's fun. It's fun.
I love scooters. I love these little bird scooters they have. They're kind of expensive, I have to say, but I love riding down here in Newark. The best was when I was in Rome. They had a deal for this same company, Bird, €10, 24-hour unlimited, just ride around Rome all day. Whereas here, it's like $3.50 base, and then like 15 cents every extra minute. What the hell is that?
I mean, I feel like a fool in my scooter. It feels very, like, you know, like very in line with pickleball.
PMC.
Like, it feels very, like,
Oh,
gentrifier.
look, we see a Trump Wait, I know who this guy is. This guy used to go to mass at the Polish parish and would always say like deplorable things to me. That's great. But see, this is what happens in the old neighborhood. You recognize people in their cars. Anyways, another scooter right here. Yeah, it's kind of dorky though, I have to say. But anyway. So, we haven't gotten beaten up yet. We were like kind of waiting to get in a fight, and AJ was going to take out his Tae Kwon Do skills.
You know, I've never been in a fight. That's something that I actually, it is sad. I started Tae Kwon Do when I was 4 years old, and I continued all through college up until age 21. So I did all that training I never got to put it to use.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling AJ, like, yeah, it would never happen for me. In my high school, and all of my time in public school, there were only 2 fights, and they were really dumb. But yeah, I like definitely have this like complex of suppressed violence or repressed violence that like I'd probably have less complexes if I beat someone up or got beaten up, but that's definitely not going to happen.
Do you think duels should be legal?
I mean, like with a gun?
Yeah.
No,
like to the death.
I don't really like violence because I'm from the suburbs. I think there should be. No, I don't like to like.
If there's
morally,
like a contract and 2 people legally, they want to be able to for their honor, if they want to be able to kill another.
Not only as a suburbanite, but like morally, I do have a hard time with like killing. But I do think there should be battles. Like, I think there should be dance battles, contractual dance battles, rap battles. Or, like, it could be involve some, like, physical combat. But not, like, I don't like injuring, killing. Like, I think that might be a healthy way to deal with conflict. But
dance battles?
Yeah, I mean, I also, that's another thing I believe. Like, people don't dance enough. Like, this is a thing with the Italians. Like, the Greek side, we would dance at parties because there are Greek dances that you learn and that you do, and they're group dances, so like everybody does it together. It's like you dance. The Italian parties, we never danced, but especially like in the suburbs, like there's rarely dancing, and if there is dances, like at the school dance, everybody's liquored up and they're just grinding or they're Jersey fist pumping. Like there's no like true skill involved. And I feel like if people learned actual dances, they would be much happier. But especially if they dance spontaneously. Like, I love, you don't see it here, but like if you're in Washington Heights or Spanish Harlem, people will dance on the sidewalk if music's blasting. Like, that's extremely healthy. But
yeah, dancing culture was another casualty of modernity.
Yeah.
The idea that there used to be dance halls, totally foreign to me.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. So beating people up, dancing, are all great. Can you tell us your hot take on Tae Kwon Do and how it's evolved and how it's going to screw up the kids of the future?
Okay, so Tae Kwon Do was popularized to the masses in the United States starting like the 1950s, and it really took off through the 70s because that's when all the Bruce Lee films were coming out. I'm talking about kind of martial arts more generally. So Tae Kwon Do is the Korean one, Karate's Japanese, and then the Kung Fu's Chinese. And then, of course, there's like a few more like Muay Thai, Krav Maga, all that. But at that time, in like 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, 80s, it was still kind of new and growing in the US, so it was very legit. Like if you went there, you'd come out tough. You'd know how to defend yourself if, you know, a fight broke out with your peers or in the street or whatnot. Like, it actually was legitimate self-defense. But then as market incentives absorbed martial arts, it became kind of, okay, how do we drain as much money as possible from the parents? How do we make this like a fun experience? But martial arts isn't always fun if done properly, because if you're doing enough, you know, real sparring practice, you're actually going to get hurt. You're actually going to become exhausted. People don't understand how exhausting a sparring match is. Like, once you could do just like 3 kicks and then, you know, and it looks like nothing to the outsider, but inside you're already, you know, dying, especially if you're wearing that heavy sparring gear and sweating. It's like, it's grueling, but and grueling isn't pleasant, and pleasant makes people want to come back the most and give the most money. So it's like, and you have the issue of, you know, parents are like, it's gotten so expensive. Parents are like, oh, I paid $200 a month. Like, you're going to give my kid that belt, even if that kid can't even throw a single punch. And so these kids will just be brought through the whole system. They'll get their yellow belt. They even get their black belt without deserving it. And you have like these 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds black belts that like can't defend themselves whatsoever. But they were just fostered through the system because, you know, the parents were paying. And they don't learn anything. They actually have a false sense of confidence, so they're more likely to get themselves into trouble because they're not even aware that they're weak because they have that belt that they quote unquote earned. I mean, I think there's some hope. I think that past the first degree black belt, it starts to get more legit because, you know, the people that aren't serious about it, they won't stick around once they reach their high school years. But once you get to the teens, people are more serious. They'll start entering sparring tournaments. Those are still, but even tournaments, I mean, I could get into that too. I could complain so much. Tournaments, just like I'll be quick. They're geared around like these electronic sensors that you can lightly tap with your foot or your fist, and then you'll get a point. Even if that same exact move you did in real life couldn't hurt a fly, you'll still get that point if you trigger the sensor in that way.
It's
so
the neoliberalization of sparring, pretty much.
Yeah, sure. Basically, it's and the whole point of the martial art in the first place is lost.
Oh, look, a broken TV. Yeah, so...
There was someone dancing.
Yeah, somebody was just dancing, I think the Drake diss track against Kendrick, which I'm not going to get into. But, so I think the moral of the story is parents, let your kids...
The parents would sit there and watch their little darlings' lessons with like, they'd complain. Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, you're not giving my kid enough attention." I was a Tae Kwon Do instructor, so I sometimes bore the brunt of this. And they would sit and they watch each lesson. And I mean, when you think about it, like, this is not a walkable community. The parents need to drive the kids to the dojang, and so if you're going to drive them there, you might as well stick around and watch. It all ties in together.
Yeah, so parents need to teach kids to advocate for themselves. Stop fighting their battles for them. And they need to move out of the suburbs and teach their children about their cultures. That's the solution. Any final words of wisdom, AJ?
Oh, God. Don't be a helicopter parent. Just to reiterate that, you're not doing your kid any favors. Let the kid figure, even if, you know, your kid is going to go through hardship and they're going to cry, but kids cry all the time. Kids cry about, and then they cry about things that they're going to laugh about in 10 years. So let them cry. Don't solve the problems for them. They'll hate you. And I would say, don't instill anxiety in your kids. Anxiety is a marker of the modern generations. Anxiety is nasty, because if you grow up with anxiety, you're going to miss so many experiences growing up, because you won't experience love, you won't experience friendship, because you'll just be... and you're going to live... if you grow up with anxiety, you're going to grow up to have so many regrets. It's the nastiest thing. So don't be anxious. Don't instill anxiety in other people. Everything turns out fine.
So people should follow your Substack, the Daily Fez.
Correct. The Daily Fez. I don't post daily. I post like once a month but the Daily Fez, it's catchy.
He's got some good posts, I have to say. You really should read them. And you're on all the socials, which we'll link to. And you definitely should read his posts and cracks in PoMo. Thanks for coming on, AJ.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
The end.